welcome to the recovery series. In this series, we are going to be incorporating Hatha and Yin Yoga elements, and we're going to be not only working the muscle groups, but also actively restoring them. All you're gonna need is your mat space, clear space around your mat space, and some water, and of course your smile. Always as a disclaimer to these videos, if at any time any of the poses feel uncomfortable or you feel any kind of pain or it's just not right for you today, I just ask that you come into child's pose or downward facing dog or whatever pose feels the best for your body. Always listen to your body first, and if any pose again doesn't feel great, I urge you to just rest, even coming into shavasana for a little moment. Any pose that makes you feel the best today, I urge you to take that position and not push your body to an unhealthy limit. So without further ado, let's just get right into it.
Coming into a nice seated position, let's go ahead and relax the head, the shoulders, the sits bones, allowing the crown of the head to lift up, perhaps closing the eyes here or keeping them slightly open. You can have your hands by your sides on your lap, or you can feel free to bring one palm onto the chest or the heart and one palm on your belly, feeling the rising and the falling of your breath, tuning into your breath. Nice deep inhales from above, opening your chest and your heart to the sky, and exhalation from below, feeling the heat, the energy coming from below your belly, cycling through your natural cycles of breath here, not forcing anything, but just simply allowing your body to breathe. Perhaps setting an intention for today's practice, gently opening the eyes back if you had them closed, and preparing for our first pose. The first pose, we will come into cat-cow, coming onto all four corners, your palms, your toes, your knees onto the floor, allowing your spine to curl on the way in dynamic, and spine elongates out with the neck and head coming upwards in the inhalation, coming forward, and exhale to bring the spine back into the curvature, relaxing and releasing the low back. And inhale forward, allowing your chest, your head, and the neck to come up. And exhale to really press your abdomen in towards the spine, towards the sky above us. And inhale to come forward, releasing the low back. And on your next inhalation, we'll stay here in static, allowing the heart to lift up towards the sky. Breathing nice deep inhales from above and deep exhalation from below. On your next exhalation, coming back into child's pose, releasing the head, the torso, the hips down onto the floor while keeping your knees apart. Feeling gravity do its work and just allowing the body to melt onto the earth. On your next exhalation, coming into downward facing dog, pedaling out those feet in our first downward facing dog, allowing the hips to come up towards the sky, releasing the spine and the neck. Power coming from the palms rooted onto the earth. Nice deep inhales from above and deep exhalation from below. Perhaps lifting your hips up higher here in the static position and feeling the breath energizing you in this posture. On your next inhalation, breath retention, bringing yourself onto the floor into Cobra. And exhale back into child's pose for our flow for a brief moment. Inhale back through the high plank position to shift back into exhalation into downward facing dog. Breath retention coming back, knees, chest, chin onto the floor for Cobra or baby cobra variation. And exhale back into child's pose, releasing the toes and releasing the spine and the neck. Inhale back through high plank and exhale, shifting the hips back up to downward facing dog. Breath retention, zigzag line into Cobra, lifting the heart, and exhale back into child's pose. Staying in child's pose for 2 cycles of breath, allowing the body to sink and melt onto the earth. On your next inhalation, shifting your body back into high plank, reconnecting the toes and the palms into the floor. And on your exhalation, lifting the hips back up for downward facing dog. Now coming into the flow, preparing for our plank variations, coming through high plank on the inhalation, and on the exhalation, coming back into downward facing dog. On your next inhalation, coming into the static position of high plank, holding here, keeping your palms and your toes deeply connected to the earth. Inhalations through your nose and deep exhalations from below. On your next exhalation, bringing your knees down to the earth, keeping them apart to come back into child's pose. On your next inhalation, coming back through high plank and now shifting into single arm balance. Starting with the left palm onto the floor, keeping the feet apart and the right hand connecting to your back. And holding this position for 4 full cycles of breath. Again, breathing through this pose, nice deep inhale through the nose and deep exhalation from below, from your mouth. On your next exhalation, reconnecting those palms onto the earth and switching sides. Now the left hand will come behind your low back and holding again for 4 full cycles of breath. Last breath here. And on your next exhalation, reconnecting those palms back down to the earth and shifting into downward facing dog. Again, lifting the hips nice and high, elongating the spine, allowing the head and the low back to release. Staying here in downward facing dog for 2 more cycles of breath. On your next inhalation, reconnecting back your knees and your palms and your toes onto the floor and shifting into the next pose called bow. So for bow, we'll go ahead and set up on the floor, connecting your hands and fingers with the arches of your feet. Make sure that the knees are not going out wide and keeping them in parallel position. On your exhalation, bring yourself off of the floor so the chest and the legs lift off the floor. And on your inhalation, reconnecting your torso and your legs back down to the earth. For the neck, you can feel free to bring the chin down to the earth when you reconnect to the earth, or you can simply bring your forehead onto the mat. We'll cycle through this dynamic posture for 2 more dynamic, and at the last one, we're going to go ahead and hold. Dynamic movement allows us to get deeper every time into the pose that we will hold in static. So that is the purpose of why we do dynamic first and then hold. And on your next exhalation, holding in static for 4 full cycles of breath. On your next inhalation, releasing your body back down to the earth, creating a pillow with your hands, stacking your hands on top of each other, elbows out wide. Go ahead and release the head and the neck to one side and the same side that your head and the neck is turning to. Go ahead and bring that leg, knees bent here to release the hips and the low back. Last breath here. And on your next exhalation, let's go ahead and switch sides. In these resting postures, it is oftentimes a little bit difficult to stop the mind, but try to clear the mind. Try not to think about the duties that you have to do later, the chores. Just try to release the mind. Release them down into the earth with a still and clear mind. Last breath here. On your next exhalation, let's go ahead and release from this posture, coming back into a kneeling position. Again, if kneeling feels uncomfortable for you today, feel free to grab a blanket or a pillow and place it behind your knees to elevate your surface so that your knees will not bother you. But whenever you're ready, we'll go ahead and come into the next pose called Camel. Sitting into a tall kneeling position, connect your palms behind your low back and recline backwards from the torso. Exhale to shift back and inhale to bring yourself back to the upright position. Make sure you're not pulling your low back, but gently resting those palms behind your low back. If at any time the knees start to bother you, you can fold the mat so the mat will become a little bit thicker, so creating a bigger padding, or you can simply bring a blanket underneath your knees. We'll do 2 more dynamic in Camel, focusing on the breath work. Every time we come upright is a nice inhalation. And on the exhalation, really releasing your heart up towards the sky. On your next exhalation, either staying here for the hold, or if you would like to go deeper today in your practice, connecting your palms onto your heels, and then deeply releasing your heart up towards the sky, where your neck will slowly recline back and releasing the posture into full camel. We'll take 2 more full cycles of breath here, really focusing on your breath. And on your next inhalation, to come out of the pose, start with your neck coming into your chest first, reconnecting those palms behind your low back, and coming back into a kneeling diamond pose. If you were simply just upright, just coming back into your seated position, perhaps grabbing that blanket if you need, and staying here for 2 full cycles of breath. Last breath here. And on your next exhalation, releasing into the next posture. The next one is going to be a little bit deeper stretch and release for your hips, your quads, and your upper body. The first position is to stay reclined back onto your elbows while your torso is lifting up towards the sky while your knees are bent. Or the second position is to come a little bit deeper into this form, which is to release the whole arm onto the floor, your upper back, and your head. Again, if at any time you would like to take these variations and your knees feel some tension, feel free to grab a pillow or a blanket to put underneath your knees or behind the knees. Or if this position is not right for you today, just simply coming into shavasana. Last breath here. And on your next inhalation, reconnecting the chin back to the chest first to release out of this posture. Then your elbows will come out of this posture while your palms are supporting yourself to lift off the ground and coming back into this kneeling position. And then releasing the legs. Our next posture is legs up the wall. For this posture, there's an option to utilize your empty wall space, or you can simply do what I'm doing. If you don't have a wall nearby that you can clear, feel free to either just bring your hands behind your hamstrings for a little bit more of a support, or you can also use some yoga straps or a scarf. We will be staying in legs up the wall for 4 full cycles of breath. Last breath here. And on your next exhalation, preparing for your next flow by bringing your knees into your chest, hands wrap around your shin and the knee. And on your next inhalation, opening the hands and the legs away from the midline and exhale to connect your hands back towards your shin. Again, inhaling to open away from the midline and exhale to release back through the midline. Again, this whole time making sure that the low back is pinned to the floor. Minimize that low back gap to protect your low back. Flowing through 2 more, just like this. Again, tuning into the breath, feeling the heat coming from the core. And on your next inhalation, staying in the static posture of hands and legs away from the midline. Nice deep inhales through the nose and from above, and deep exhalation from below, from the abdomen. And on your next exhalation, reconnecting the hands back towards your knees. And now weaving in your fingers through the midline and connecting your fingers to the arches of the feet to meet in Happy Baby. For Happy Baby, you can feel free to add some motion, movement, either side to side, opening one leg and closing the other, and alternating the sides. Whatever your body feels it needs today, taking that variation, massaging the low back and opening the hips. And on your next exhalation, releasing Happy Baby by bringing your legs back, connecting to the earth, and setting up for our next posture of bridge. To start in bridge, we will go ahead and bring both feet connecting to the earth, setting up so that your fingertips can touch your heels. And from here, we're going to go ahead and inhale to open the hands up above your head, lifting the hips up, squeezing the glutes, and exhale to roll the spine vertebrae by vertebrae again back to the earth. And we'll flow through this one, again tuning into the breath. Every time we lift up the hips and hands up away from the midline is an inhalation, filling up the chest. And on the exhalation, slowly bringing your hips and hands back down to the earth. Again, tuning in, cycling with the breath, and synchronizing body movement with the breath. And on your next inhalation, meeting in the static form of bridge by keeping your hands above your head, feet connected to the earth. If you like to go deeper, you can always feel free to bring the elbows underneath your back, connecting your hands behind your low back and coming into this extended bridge. Whichever variation you choose today is valid. It really depends on what you like for your body today. So just knowing what is best for your body and taking that variation. Last breath here. And on your next exhalation, disconnecting the hands from the low back if you're in advanced bridge, or coming into your vertebrae by vertebrae, releasing your hands and hips back down to the earth. And now let's go ahead and release the legs all the way to extension. Taking a pause here as we set up for inversion practice. Again, if inversion does not feel like a good option for you today, just relaxing here in shavasana or perhaps coming into Happy Baby. For those who would like to take inversion practice today, setting up so that your hands will shimmy behind your sits bones in the low back, the palms connected to the earth and your elbows as well. Point the toes on your inhalation. On your exhalation, bend the knees, connecting your palms behind your low back and bringing the legs up into extension to the sky. From here, Exhale to bring one knee in towards your chest, and inhale to bring that leg back up to meet the other. And we'll go ahead and switch sides. Again, exhale to bring that knee in towards your chest, and inhale to lift it up. We'll take 3 more dynamic versions just like this. Again, connecting to the breath, feeling the abdomen heating up as you protect your low back in this position. Exhale to feel the energy of your abdomen, and inhale to feel that cooling sensation coming back into your body. We'll take 1 more on each side, again, really focusing on synchronizing the body movements with your breath. And on your next inhalation, we'll meet the feet back to the starting position. Make sure to keep the inner thighs and the knees together so that you really feel that zip up sensation through the midline and the core, really working to stabilize our body through inversion. We'll stay here for 2 more full cycles of breath. Inversion practice is great, especially for those of us who are on our feet a lot. It helps to relieve the tension in your feet, as well as recirculating for your circulatory system. And on your next exhalation, let's go ahead and bring both knees in towards your chest, and on the inhale, reconnecting the hands back to the earth and the feet back down to the earth. If you feel any kind of low back sensation, keep the legs on the floor with the feet planted to make sure that the low back feels good again. If you do not feel any low back tension, just bring your legs back to extension and meeting in shavasana for a brief moment. And we will stay here for a moment, just resettling the breath, reconnecting your body to the earth from inversion practice. On your next inhalation, setting up for one of our last poses for today, coming back to all fours and then coming back all the way to the floor on your belly now. We will be conducting some back bending postures to counterbalance your inversion practice today. So for Cobra, setting your palms down onto the floor with the feet, the tops of the toes onto the floor. And on your inhalation, pressing your palms onto the floor firmly, keeping the elbows bent, and releasing your spine, head, and torso up away from the floor. On your exhalation, bringing your torso and head and the neck back down to the floor, and repeating. Inhale to bring yourself back up in dynamic. And exhale to bring your body back down to the earth. We'll do it 2 more times. Inhale, pressing the palms firmly, keeping the elbows soft and the gaze soft. And exhale to release back softly onto the earth. One last time. Inhale to fill up the chest and the heart with the breath. And exhale to release that heat from the abdomen. On your next inhalation, we'll stay in static practice, keeping the elbows soft and bent here, the eye gaze soft and the heart lifted. The neck can stay neutral while your eye gaze looks just gently above the level of the horizon. Breathing here, nice, deep and complete breaths. We'll take one more full cycle of breath here. And on your next exhalation, bringing yourself out of Cobra and pushing back into child's pose, keeping the knees out wide so that your hips, your spine, and bringing your forehead to release down onto the earth. We'll stay here for 4 full cycles of breath, allowing gravity to do its job, not forcing anything, but simply allowing your body to just melt into the earth. Last breath here. And on your next inhalation, coming out of child's pose, sitting back down onto your sits bones, and we prepare for our forward fold, our last posture for today. For Paschimottanasana, forward fold, elongating the legs in front of you, pressing your palms firmly into the floor to lift your hips up to recenter your sits bones. Crown of the head is long. Inhale to bring your hands extension overhead, and on the exhale, forward fold from those hips and bringing your fingertips to connect to the outside of your feet. Inhale to bring the spine nice and long, and exhale to reconnect those fingers to your feet. Again, dynamic helps us to come into the posture a little bit deeper. So at the end of this sequence, if you feel like your hands will only connect to your shins, that's all right. Just go ahead and flow through the practice while bringing your fingertips to your shins if it doesn't connect to your feet. And on your last dynamic, on your next exhalation, reconnecting your fingers to either the outside of the feet or your shins and holding here for static. We'll stay here for 4 full cycles of breath. Again, allowing your spine, your hands, and your heart to come slowly towards the earth, towards your knees. For those of us who are a little bit more flexible, can try to reach the heart all the way, touching to the knees, and just deeply releasing the neck here. We'll stay here for one more full cycle of breath. And on your next inhalation, bringing those hands back up, and exhale to bring your fingers and palms back down next to you. And finally, we're going to go ahead and recline back, extending the legs, bringing the palms to face up towards the sky, releasing the knees outward. The legs will also fall outwards gently, resting the spine and the neck, closing the eyes, and coming into shavasana, our final and most important pose in yoga. This is the resting pose. It's a pose that's meant to deeply relax and nourish your soul and your body. Today I will be conducting a deep relaxation for your body. Imagine you are at a tropical destination of choice. You are relaxing on the sand, the warm beach, the warm sand underneath you, and the sunshine is shining on your body, making your body feel warm. And now imagining the warm, shallow waters meeting you and massaging your lower body and deeply releasing it back down to the warm sand. Next, the warm, shallow waters travels up towards your hands and deeply releases your hands back down to the warm sand. Next, the warm, shallow waters travels to the back of your neck, releases any tension in the neck, and deeply releases it back down to the earth. And finally, the warm, shallow waters travels to your low back and deeply releases your low back down to the floor. Now your whole body has been addressed, deeply releasing any other tensions that you may carry into shavasana and deeply releasing those tensions into the earth. Now slowly bringing awareness back into your body by starting with the breath and then gently moving your fingers, your toes, perhaps bringing your neck and your head side to side, gently waking up your body again. And whenever you feel ready, perhaps giving yourself a nice big hug to thank your body for all of its hard work that it's done for us. And slowly coming on to your right side, taking a pause. And whenever you feel ready, coming back into your upright seated position. Now sitting back into a comfortable seated position, keeping the eyes closed, remembering the intention that you set today, and scanning how the body feels. Not judging any of the sensations, but simply just acknowledging the sensations. Thanking your body today for the practice, and thanking your body for allowing you to move, to restore. And thank you so much for joining me here today in your practice. With that, we say Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, which means peace to those around us and all living creatures, and most importantly, yourself. Namaste.